Hello everyone, my name is Yemise Ilesomi and I'm happy to be with you today. Today I will be speaking on the issue of homosexuality in Africa. I will be focusing on legalizing homophobia in Africa. There are ongoing legislative attempts in Nigeria and Uganda to further criminalize sexuality rights. There is a clamor for the removal and also for the strengthening of sodomy laws inherited by Commonwealth countries in Africa. However, the call for sexuality rights in Africa by the international community is often seen as another colonial invasion by many Africans. Research on sexuality rights is a relatively new developing area in Africa. There is a strong coalition spreading across Africa by Africans advocating for sexuality rights and claiming it as not just any right but as fundamental human rights. Sexuality rights remain a silent but controversial issue in many parts of Africa. It is not just seen as a controversial issue but also as a taboo subject. One of the most efficient ways patriarchy uses sexuality as a tool to create and sustain gender hierarchy in African societies is by enshrouding it in secrecy and taboos. Many countries in Africa still criminalize homosexuality. Sodomy laws are still part of the criminal laws, thereby making it legally possible to persecute people with different sexual orientation. For example, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Ghana all have laws under which homosexuality can be persecuted. In South Africa, where the constitution recognizes same-sex relationships, gays and lesbians are often attacked, molested, and persecuted for their sexual orientation. Many African societies do not have or provide enabling environments to discuss sexual orientation issues. Homosexuality has been condemned by many Africans as many African leaders as immoral, un-African, and a white man's disease. Africa is a large continent with diverse cultures and ethnicities. However, homophobia, fueled by religious intolerance and oppressive laws, are remarkably similar issues many have in common. Recently, the draconian same-sex marriage prohibition bill was passed by the Nigerian House of Representatives. The bill stipulates a 14-year jail term for same-sex marriage and 10 years imprisonment for public show of same-sex affection. The approved bill also stipulates a 10-year imprisonment for anyone who abets a gay person, witnesses a same-sex marriage, or advocates for LGBT rights. The same-sex marriage prohibition bill is a blatant violation of human rights of Nigerians, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transsexuals. It is a shame that such draconian bill was passed immediately, almost unanimously in both Nigerian Senate and House of Representatives. They all voted unanimously for the passage of this bill. But many opponents of LGBT rights in Africa are always quick to say that homosexuality is alien to Africa. So we have to ask, is homosexuality alien to Africa? Culture and religion is usually used to support opposition to homosexuality, sexual and gender rights. Those are viewed as foreign imports that corrupts cultural values. Many often claim that homosexuality is alien to Africa. Can someone please show me the proof? I am an African. I'm bisexual. I was bisexual before I ever met any white person or stepped foot on any European shore. Does this make me a fake African? For how long shall innocent lives be the victims of ignorance, hate, and power? Policymakers, religious leaders, and politicians seek to make laws and statements that discriminate against lesbians and gays and the portray sexual minorities as less than human. For example, Ugandan Speaker Kadanga said the Uganda homophobic bill, which originally mandated death or for some gay sexual acts, will be passed as a gift to Ugandans whom she claimed are demanding it. Also, the former president of Nigeria Olusegun Obasanjo was widely quoted as saying that homosexuality is unbiblical, unnatural, and definitely un-African, unquote. President Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe has for long branded gays as less than human. Even Dr. James Butoro, the Uganda Prime Minister of Ethics and Integrity, who is basically the main sponsor of the kill the gay bills in Uganda, stated that homosexuality is a strange, unhealthy, unnatural, and immoral way of life. In South Africa in 2006, outside the Johannesburg High Court, immediately after his acquittal on the charge of rape, yes, President Jacob Zuma said, and I quote, "Same-sex marriage is a disgrace to the nation and to God. When I was growing up, Umgigili, homosexuals in the Zulu language, pardon my pronunciation, could not stand in front of me. I would knock him out," unquote. And this is, this was coming from somebody who was facing the charge of rape. Also that the legacy of colonialism should no longer be confused with cultural authenticity or national freedom. Africa is the cradle of humanity. Homosexuality existed since time immemorial, which logically means it started from Africa before some members of the human race started migrated to other continents for greener pastures. Evoking African culture as a justification for the continuous attacks on gays and lesbians is no longer tenable, as the following statements are shown. Now, when you hear about attacks on minorities, whether sexual or whatever, it is not a good sign, because who is to define who is African? Such behavior usually leads to the closing down of the cosmopolitan nature of what is African. Also, how can we talk of African culture and moral values in a continent that has seen or has tens of thousands of different ethnic and linguistic groups? What is un-African about homosexuality when homosexuality was not only a condoned but also an actively encouraged practice among young males, among the Bahima people of Ankole, and also even among the Ugandas, the royal family, the Buganda royal family in Uganda? Sodomy law is a foreign import. It is a relic from the colonial era which all former colonial British colonies inherited. The law, like most old colonial British laws, had a very high religious influence. The name of the law itself points to its biblical origin. The thing is, Britain has since repealed sodomy laws in its homeland. Unfortunately, Nigeria and many other African countries still cling to this antiquated law, and many now think that it is actually an original homegrown African law. No, it is not. It is a relic of the British colonization. Unfortunately, neo-colonialism and mental slavery continue in Africa through the very heavy influence of evangelical missionaries who, having lost ground in their Western countries to Equality Rights Acts, have now invaded African churches and are inciting members against homosexuals. These evangelicals are also sponsoring bills against homosexuals in African countries. Some of those churches are particularly from the United States of America. The upsurge of homophobic bills springing up all over Africa is actually a calculated, sponsored mission of foreign religious fanatics. Some Nigerian religious groups came to the public hearing with placards designed to incite and even threatened to beat up the few LGBT defenders that attended the hearing. How very, very Christian-like. Whatever happened to the holy commandment, love thy neighbor? When people say homosexuality is not African or is unnatural, tell them this picture of two men kissing is of Newton and Newcomb. They were ancient Egyptian royal servants. They are believed to be the first recorded same-sex couples in history. It is the only tomb in necropos where men are displayed embracing and holding hands. In addition, their chosen names form a linguistic reference to their closeness. Newcome means joined to life, and Cleantop means joined to the blessed state of the dead. And together, the names can be translated as joined in life and joined in death. Normativity is a social construct. It is neither biological nor medical. Heteronormativity may be the norm, but that does not mean it is the only type of relationship that exists or is natural. Killing of twins, child marriage, and female circumcision were once considered normal in some parts of Africa. Also, women contesting elections and inheriting lands and properties were once considered abnormal in many parts of Africa. Times change, and so do our norms. Women are continuously evolving socially and politically to create new norms. Most importantly, we must recognize that some rights are inalienable rights, and all human beings are entitled to those rights by virtue of being human beings, irrespective of gender, birth, race, or sexual orientation. What is normal today might become abnormal tomorrow, but what I am born with, for example my sexual orientation, remains an integral part of me. Whether the society or even I accept it or not does not change anything. Yes, it is about equal rights for all. Homosexuals were embraced in many parts of Africa before the colonizers came with their sodomy laws. So, dear African homophobes, homosexuality is not what is un-African. Sodomy law is an unfortunate Western import, and the homophobia that ensued from it is what is un-African. Yes, that is what is un-African. Homophobia is un-African. And for those who insist that homosexuality can never be accepted in Africa, well, I got news for you. Malawi's new president, Joyce Banda, announced that she will work to overturn Malawi's law which bans homosexual acts. Banda said she wants to repeal bad laws when speaking at her first State of the Nation address. Egypt's rights are human rights and they are not optional. Lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transsexuals are humans and therefore entitled to all human rights. Let no politician, religious leader, or any bigot tell us otherwise. As UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon rightly said, and I quote, when individuals are attacked, abused, or imprisoned because of their sexual orientation, we must speak out. Where there is tension between cultural attitudes and universal human rights, universal human rights must come first. Personal disapproval or even societal disapproval is no excuse to arrest, detain, imprison, harass, or torture anyone ever. Unquote. Gender should not be a barrier to love or marriage. State-sanctioned jungle justice is not a problem we face in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole. There have been many documented cases of public bullying and torture of gays and lesbians in Nigeria, yet we never had a public condemnation of such barbaric acts and threats against lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transsexuals. Under Sharia law, which has been adopted by 12 northern states in Nigeria, sodomy is a criminal offense which is penalized with death by stoning. Hate crimes are not uncommon in Nigeria, as can be seen in the following cases. In Jigawa State, a Muslim state, in April 2002, a 22-year-old student at Benin Kudu College was beaten to death by fellow students because they suspected him as gay. Enid and Joy, lesbian Christian couple, were attacked with acid by some people through their bedroom window. Joy died as a result of the attack, and Annette was hospitalized. As recently, on January 2013, 7 men were stripped naked, beaten, and paraded by a mob in Ekwe, Imo State on the allegation of homosexuality. There are also reported cases of people kidnapped for the actual or suspected sexual orientation by unscrupulous Nigerians who are eager to make money from such discriminatory laws. Recently, an intersex person was stripped naked in a marketplace because of his sexual organs. It is unfair to encourage the oppression and discrimination of another while you demand that others respect your right to be free from discrimination. It is barbaric, unconstitutional, and a blatant violation of human rights to demand that lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transsexuals be locked up for 14 years or even for a minute because of their sexual orientation. Lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transsexuals have not committed any offense. They have not committed any crime by being true to their sexual orientation. We have not harmed anyone, and we constitute no harm to the society. If you insist on making us criminals, at least let us know the victim of our supposed crime. Who are the victims of same-sex consensual adult relationships? Are you of the society harmed by the consensual adult relationships of another? What do you hope to achieve by jailing the gays? Is prison a reform or cure center for homosexuality? You are not being oppressed when another group gain rights that you have always had. You should stop denying others equal rights which every human being is entitled to. When you demand that the president or the state recognize your right, you should also recognize that the right to freedom of association and freedom of expression are human rights that everybody is entitled to regardless of their sexual orientation. And we always say that human rights are not the privilege of heterosexuals. Every human being is entitled to human rights. These rights are called human rights, not heterosexual rights. In case you're in doubt, lesbian, gays, bisexuals are humans. Yes, LGBTs are people too. We are people, we are humans and entitled to the same rights that you enjoy as a human being. Yeah. And we always say, are you part of a progressive human society for all, or are you for retrogression? LGBT rights are human rights, not extra rights. LGBT rights advocates are not demanding for extra rights. Equality for all does not take away the rights of others. It only means no one is allowed to discriminate against another. It is about treating others the way we want to be treated. Rights are never freely given, yes, but always fought for. Fundamental human rights have already been fought for and won. It should be accorded to everyone irrespective of race, gender, or sexual orientation. In the international arena, Nigeria has continued its campaign openly calling for killing people who are engaged in homosexual conduct. At the UN Human Rights Council in September 2006, Nigeria ridiculed the notion that executions for offenses such as homosexuality and lesbianism are excessive. Also, recently at the United Nations, Nigeria was one of the countries that voted in support of removing sexual orientation as one of the grounds which extrajudicial summary and arbitrary execution would not be tolerated. Need I point out that extrajudicial summary and arbitrary execution include jungle justice? In Nigeria, Nigeria actually voted that jungle justice can be meted out to gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transsexuals. And the thing is, when Nigerians and most Africans have so much hate for LGBT persons who have not caused them harm in any way, how can they even have an ounce of human feeling for those who actually harm them? Law enforcement agents are not sympathetic to sexual minority cases. The government seeks to further criminalize homosexuals, and the majority of the citizens want to stone gays to death. What a country, what a continent. When leaders of our country, our security agents, and the generality of our citizens have such mindsets, how can we begin to talk of a social justice conscience and sanity in our nation? Nigeria must rid themselves of mental slavery. Africans must also rid themselves of mental slavery, self-righteousness, and religious stupidity before they can truly empathize with another human being, without a need to justify their actions with goals from imported holy books. Those of us who believe in equal rights and justice for all will keep on fighting for human rights for all. It does not matter whether we are a majority or a minority, because LGBT rights are human rights, and that is the beauty of democracy. I know many of our international colleagues and comrades always ask, what can they do to support us? What can they do to support the LGBT people in those areas where the sexual orientation is criminalized? I say solidarity is very important. International solidarity is important also because no country is an island unto itself. And one way you can also help is by talking about it, bringing it to the attention of your government, and also demanding that your government act in ways that shows that they do not support criminalization of a minority. And one way they can do this is by making sure that they do not issue visas or traveling documents to visiting officials from countries that criminalize homosexuality. I mean, if a lawmaker voted in favor of criminalizing or putting gays in jail, you should pressurize you put pressure on your government not to issue a traveling document to that law official to come into your country. Let it be clear that you do not want to associate or want to open your borders to such people. And I think that will send a strong message to the lawmakers and the politicians that your country will not tolerate homophobia, will not tolerate human rights violation, will not welcome dictators or human rights violators into your country. So it is important to stand with us, because we know that this is one way our lawmakers will have to stand up and think twice before criminalizing sexual minorities. The lawmakers are fond of traveling abroad for the shopping spree. They go there for every headache or small health problem they have. They all have their health consultants outside the countries. So if you could tell them that no, you won't, you will be denied access to our country, you won't get a visa to visit us or come into our country because of your stance on because of your violation of the rights of sexual minorities, they will begin to think twice before passing those laws. They will begin to think twice because they know it will have implication for them too. So we will really appreciate your solidarity. Keep on creating the awareness on this issue. We are happy you standing with us on this issue. LGBT rights are human rights, and an injury to one is an injury to all. So it is important that we stand together to fight this great blatant violation of human rights. And also, for you to know, I've got the book out on Amazon titled Freedom to Love for All, Homosexuality is Not Un-African. The book actually takes a critical look at Nigerians' J.D. Gays bill. Just look at the Freedom to Love for All, Homosexuality is Not African. Yemi on me. You can easily get it on Amazon in paperback, and also available in e-copy on Kindle edition. So hope you get a copy. Yeah. Thank you. And I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I'm looking forward to answering your questions, and if you have any other clarification that you'd like me to clarify or speak more on, please do ask me during question time. It's been great making this presentation for you, and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.